Hey you guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. We are Katie and Elisha from nowthatwe'reafamily.com, and today we get to talk about unpacking all the details really of a year going smartphone free. These are our phones. Elisha's in its, oh, hey, how's it going over there?
That's good.
Elisha is in a little better shape than mine. My screen is broken. But this is our first year having no smartphone in our home. Before that, I had a smartphone. Elisha got rid of his about 6 months prior, right?
Well,
a year.
It's been 2.5 years since I've had a smartphone.
Oh, wow. Okay,
Yeah.
So it has been a long time. But we did have a working smartphone in the family, so we still had a lot of systems set up around having the option of a smartphone. Since going completely to dumb phones, we have had to change the way that we do a lot of things. And so today we're going to break down exactly how we do that, especially the most common question we get is, okay, well then how are you guys online? So anyways, I'm excited to dive into that with you guys today.
Yeah, and as Katie already mentioned, we're telling you how we've done it over the last year. If you want to know why we decided to go smartphone free, we'll link the podcast episode below that we recorded right after going smartphone free, and that kind of gives you more of the principles and the reasons as why we went smartphone free and why we have plans to continue being smartphone free for the foreseeable future.
If you guys enjoy this video, don't hesitate to click the subscribe button, leave it a thumbs up, and let's dive in.
So over the last year, we have received numerous questions regarding being smartphone free, and there tends to be a pattern to these. So we're going to just answer some of the most common questions that we've received in regards to how we've been smartphone free for the last year. Katie, what's the first question?
Okay, so the first question is answered by this little camera here. It used to be our old vlogging camera. It's a G7X Mark II, Canon G7X Mark II. I'll link it down below. The most common question we get is, how do you still take pictures of your kids and document your family life? And it's an honest question, but I kind of have to laugh at this one because for decades, people have been using point and shoot cameras. And so this isn't hard to slip in my pocket if we're going to the zoo or if we're going somewhere special. This is a very sturdy camera. Again, we took it everywhere when we were vlogging as a family. As you can see, it's got some paint on it. It's a little worse for wear. We just used our old vlogging camera and use it now as a point and shoot camera. It also takes great video, and that's it. Super, super simple, easy to pack around. I don't know what's actually the best camera for this, but this is the one that we use. Also, as far as documenting our family's life though, I hated posing for pictures as a kid. Like whenever my mom got out the camera, that was not my favorite memory. And so I'd way rather focus on creating memories with our kids than documenting the memories that we create with our kids. And I love going on hikes or going on a family adventure, going skiing as a family and not bringing a camera and just knowing like, you know what, these are gonna be memories between us and our children. No one else is gonna see them. And it's just a beautiful thing that we have together as a family.
Yeah, it caught me off guard that this was by far the most common question that we received because it was the easiest thing for us to replace. Taking photos, taking videos, just going to a good old school camera was an easy solution to that one for us.
Yeah. And as far as like saving them, because obviously our iPhone will save all the photos really easily, I just upload them to our computer, and usually I save like 5 or 6 photos that I have taken over that month, and I save them in a Trello board. I will kind of show you how that looks. I break it all down in my homeschooling course, but this is how I kind of document what we do each month and keep track of it.
The next most common question, and this one makes sense to me because this has actually been a challenge for us. The question is, how do you guys get from point A to point B when you're traveling? GPS, what do you do without the Maps app on your phone? And originally, when we first got rid of our phones, this was actually a problem for us. Obviously, when you're local and you're staying close by to home, you don't need maps. You don't need directions to people's places, with the exception of maybe going to a new friend's house for dinner where they'd send you your address. And again, with that, not that big of a deal. I look it up on the computer before we leave, before we leave, and then I'm able to find my way there. However, when we started traveling without smartphones and before having systems with that, we found ourselves in some sticky situations that were preventable and are now preventable.
Okay, traveling was the next question though. As far as GPS, like locally, we do use Google Maps. We don't have to print off the maps. We're familiar with our town. We don't live in like Seattle or Chicago or something. So we just kind of look where something is. I have gotten so much better at directions. I used to be terrible at directions. And like when my phone would die or I would run out of like bad internet service, I would not know east from west, north from south, how to get anywhere. And so I actually really like relying a lot more on my brain instead of technology for like local directions. An option that you can get is you go to Amazon and you buy a GPS and you put it in your car and it tells you where to go. Again, people have been using these for a really long time. We have not done this. I don't actually know why.
Yeah, we probably could. Really, we just haven't needed to do it since forming new systems around not having the GPS in our car. Would it be a good tool to have? It probably would be, and maybe in the future we'll add that.
Yeah, something else that does work that a lot of people don't know about these little guys though, is you can go on here, you can type in, it's not like a smart device, but you can type in the exact address where you're starting from, the exact address you want to go, and then it will say, turn right here. And then you click next. Once you've made that turn, it'll say turn left here, and then you click next. So we have used this in a pinch. We have used this when we're traveling. And if I like do get lost somewhere, I know that I can do this. It's not super user friendly, but it does get me where I need to go.
Yeah, and also something that's happened many times, I know I'm kind of like getting into the whole travel question.
It's okay, if he really wants to get to the travel.
Is if I've been traveling, I've actually called Katie. She's been back at home and she's gotten on the computer and helped me through various
Yes, if it's like a really stressful,
things.
time-sensitive situation, we like basically pretend we're like Secret Service and we call back and the computer person has to be like, okay, turn left in 50 feet, turn right.
Yeah,
it's like really adrenaline pumping.
Yeah, and something else that is even more so in the travel question, but we're not getting there yet, okay?
Let me just go into the travel question.
No, not yet. But this is applicable to the GPS question, is that this has actually helped me be a lot more prepared when we are driving somewhere and when we are traveling. It makes me far more familiar with the general area that we're going to be in because I looked it up ahead of time. I found the address, I got on my computer and I looked at it. Whereas when I had a smartphone, we would just leave. We'd hop in the car and leave, and I'd be like, hey, can you pull up the address that, so-and-so sent us? We'd click on the address and just follow the directions. And I would really have no clue what was around us. Were we close to a river? Were we close to a school? Were we close to a prison? And it's kind of nice now as I pull up the big map on my computer, knowing what the surrounding area is that we're going to visit.
Yeah, so now that we're officially in the travel section, how do you travel? I would say the two most challenging things for us have been GPS locally and then travel. And with traveling, it's actually gone smoother and smoother and smoother every time we have traveled, because last minute stuff with little kids is stressful. People can be hungry. You're trying to find a code in your email or whatever. So Elisha is so prepared. He has our flight codes. He has our hotel confirmation. He has all this stuff written down or with him. And it has gone so smooth the last few times that we've flown with the kids because of this.
Yeah, and we learned that from painful situations, because before having these systems, I would just go to the airport knowing what time my flight was, and then you start checking in, and the whole check-in process is so much more laborious without a smartphone. And then you get to your destination, and you go to order an Uber, and you're like, oh boy, I don't even have the Uber app. And so you have to find Wi-Fi, pull out your computer, order an Uber, and then they're saying, okay, well, where am I taking you to? And you're like, where was that email with the address to the conference center that I was supposed to be going to? So then you got to pull up your email on your desktop, again, find Wi-Fi in order to do that. And the whole thing put me in a bunch of bad situations that I missed flights, I missed events, I missed meetings early on in my smartphone free days because of a lack of planning. As Katie already mentioned, now that we have systems, travel's actually smoother than it's ever been for us because we're so intentional in our preparation. I will say, if there's a curveball thrown, then it's a little bit more logistically challenging. So if travel goes according to plan, if flights are on time, if everything's happening as it should, it's great. But if a flight's delayed or if a flight's canceled, then it's really hard without apps to be flexible. And that's where you really have to use internet and have your computer with you at the airport or so on.
Yeah, Elisha, he's definitely an experience with this. Elisha travels more than we all do as a family. And he's had a couple layovers where his flight got canceled for multiple days. And so he had to take flights all over out of the direction he was trying to go in order to get home to us and like rent a car. And it was a nightmare. So you pulled out your computer and used the internet Wi-Fi.
That's right.
Right, to make all those decisions.
Yes.
So the nice thing about that is we do always have our laptops with us if we're flying somewhere. And so you can pull those out at a coffee shop or at a plane flight or at an airport. And we've definitely done that before for like in the pinch change of plan situations.
Yes.
Two nice things are that car rentals, at least the cars that we've rented, have had GPSs in them. So that's really nice. We just type in where we're going. So even if we're in a new state, it just tells us where to go. So that's really easy. And then the other thing is if you get an Uber, all you need to provide them with is the address. We usually get Ubers while we're in the airport. So you call the Uber on your computer and then we get in the Uber and go to where we're going. And then same thing, like the hotel will have Wi-Fi. So we get the Uber there and then, we aren't just like anywhere really where there's no Wi-Fi.
Yeah, we're just walking around holding the computer everywhere.
Elisha, stop. Okay?
No, it's not a big deal at all because I have it in my backpack anyways.
Who do you think likes this situation more, me or him?
Well, I will say this. Becoming smartphone free has been one of the best decisions I've ever made. It has enhanced my quality of life in such a way that it's actually really hard for me to quantify. So I'm bringing up these funny situations that even when I'm in them, I've got no question in my brain as to whether or not it's worth being smartphone free. So I'm saying all these things with a cheeky attitude, knowing full well that I've got every intention on being smartphone free for the rest of my life. So I'm saying these things in a funny way, but I cannot tell you how beneficial it's been to my life and to our whole family's life being smartphone free.
Yeah, but there have been benches. He knows what to say. I'm sitting right here. Okay, another question. How do you keep up with texts, group chats, friends, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, comms, communications.
Yeah, exactly. So I will say this. My friendships have drastically become more in person. I have in-person friends. We meet at Bible study, we meet at church, we go over to each other's houses for dinner, and we connect for play dates. I do not have texting friends like I used to because texting on this thing is a little nightmare, as some can expect. So we aren't having chatty, fun conversations. It's like, see you there at 3 and that's it.
Yes.
So that has changed. One thing that is cool that I didn't anticipate though is we still have our Apple IDs. And so texts come to my computer. And so again, I'm not like the fastest person as far as communication goes, but whenever I do pull open my computer, I can get back to friends and we chat that way. We also have family text threads.
Yeah, I've ended up using my computer far more for communication since being smartphone free. Like Katie said, we've got our Apple ID, so iMessages go to our computer now, which is really handy. And what's crazy is that you can even put your email address into group chats that are not iPhone exclusive, and those will go to your email address. That's not quite as convenient as having to go to your iMessages on your desktop. But we've been able to use those, and it really doesn't feel like we're missing out as much as I would have thought that we would feel like we're missing out.
Yeah, so we do have a group chat for my family. We have a group chat for his family. We can send pictures back and forth, all that stuff from our desktops. We have a group chat for work. And we also can FaceTime with our what do you call those? Apple IDs. So that's cool too. So we'll just sit down with the kids in front of the computer and FaceTime grandparents or something like that. So that's really cool. It's not super spontaneous or on the go or chatty, but again, I haven't regretted trading the more online friendships for in-person friendships.
Yeah, I think just a general theme about being smartphone free is that it's made the quality of whatever thing we're doing at the moment far greater. And so when we're at home as a family, that quality time is far more quality than it used to be. When we were with extended family or when we're with friends, that time in and of itself is so much more quality. Whereas before, maybe you would feel like you're able to kind of juggle multiple relationships or multiple conversations at the same time, but we found that the quality wasn't there like it is now.
Okay, so the fifth question people ask is about apps. What do you do with apps on your phone? And there are a lot of really, really useful apps that we do have to bypass. Some apps that we still use that have desktop versions are, I use Trello. It's like an organizational tool for our home and also for our business. So we both use that also to organize our homeschool, but they have a great desktop version and I prefer it on desktop actually because I could see everything all laid out at once. I wrote down a few of them here. We use Spotify. We just, open up the computer, play our music. As far as workout apps, like I used to do a BBG workout app. Now I just purchase workout programs online. And if I want like a workout program and go through that, a lot of trainers and stuff like that have their app and they also have desktop versions of their programs. So that's something else for free workouts. Going on YouTube or something like that is a great option as well.
We have got the app for Zoom on our computer and we're on Zoom like every day.
Yeah, definitely. And then as far as podcasts, I still listen to podcasts on my computer. I just pull them up in the house and we'll listen to them while I'm doing the dishes or while the kids are asleep or something like that. I did used to love listening to podcasts when I would go for a walk or I would go for a run. But honestly, trading that noise and kind of something always being there has opened up more room for just thinking, silence, praying, processing. And so I don't think that has been a bad trade as much as I missed it at first.
Same with me. I would always have an audiobook or a podcast going anytime I was in the car or working out. And I thought I was really going to miss that. But I've found that having this time to contemplate life, to pray, to memorize scripture, to just meditate on scripture has been so edifying. And so to think about replacing that back with the books, of course, you can be edified through books and podcasts as well. But again, I don't see it as being a loss. I really see it as being something gained in being rid of the noise that I had all the time with audiobooks and podcasts and whatnot.
Yeah, what I do like about a desktop app is that when you go in, you're going on the computer to do that thing. It's not like, okay, I'm going to go on to Instacart to purchase my groceries, but I'm going to get sidetracked along the way with social media and email and a text that needs to be sent and like everything's all right there. It technically is on your computer too, but it's not as accessible. It's not as user-friendly and it's not set up to pop your attention in multiple different directions with notifications or all that kind of stuff. So it's a little more out of sight, out of mind on your computer. So I still do things like I log online and purchase my groceries online. I think it's a great efficiency saver, but I'm not distracted by other things while I'm going on to do that thing.
That's exactly right. The level of intentionality and the ability to be so much more deliberate with the way that we use these things like podcasts and past apps that we've used has increased because again, I love podcasts. I love audiobooks. I love so many of the features that I thought I would only be able to enjoy with the smartphone. But I've found that I actually get to enjoy these things in a more profound and, like I said, intentional way, where I'm not just kind of like haphazardly choosing an episode or selecting this thing to watch or listen to. I go to it, I think about it, I consume it with far more attention to what I'm consuming.
And then the sixth question is, and if you have more questions, leave them down below. They'll be helpful for us to we can let you know. But with social media, how do we still have a presence on Instagram? And so this is a big one. Basically, just a little backstory. If some of you guys have been here for a long time, then you know that for a while I sold my soul to social media because basically we knew that we wanted a community. We knew that we wanted to be able to surround ourselves with like-minded people. And it seemed like social media was the most straightforward way for us to do that. So I shared every waking moment of my life for 3 to 4 years. And at that point, I realized, okay, my kids are getting older now. Now they notice I'm on the phone all the time. Now this is a distraction. They can talk to me and I'm snapping at them. And I was realizing this wasn't serving me. And we had boundaries in place and all that stuff. Elisha joined. Well, we deleted our individual social media accounts. We just kept the business social media account. But even that was just too much. And I found that our pleasure and work was just like way too combined. And yeah. So that led us to this place where we were like, you know what? Social media is no longer serving our family. We thought it's still important to have a presence on social media as far as when people look up, now that we're a family, what do they find on Instagram? You know, we still want to be there to let people know who Now That We're a Family is, but we are not actively on social media. What I mean by that is we can't even log into our Instagram account. So we have 2 women who manage our Instagram account for us. I cannot see analytics. I can't see likes. I can't see comments. I don't see direct messages. If you get a direct message from Elisha or I, it is us. The gals who manage our social media, if they see a personal message that they think we'll be interested in, they screenshot it, they text it to us. I text a reply, and then they send that to you. But basically, we don't even function like we have social media and the fact that we can't access our own account.
Yeah, and I think this has been a huge epiphany for both Katie and I to realize that we're able to create and ideally add value in the way that we feel called to add value without being caught up in what Katie already mentioned, the vanity metrics, the analytics, the things that you can consume your life when you're thinking, okay, are we growing? Are we shrinking? How many followers? How many likes? I don't know who's above that. I really haven't met anybody where that doesn't affect them on some level. And that was us. We were riding that wave on a daily basis, and that affected our home in such a negative way. So being able to create the content that we care about, that we're passionate about, and that we believe in, put it out there on the various platforms, and then just believe that the Lord's going to use it, if you will. You know, He'll spread it. We're not trying to control it and follow what the trends are and post accordingly. That's brought so much peace to our home. And Katie and I have talked about this before. If we were more committed to social media and using the platform the way that, Instagram would like you to use the platform, we might grow faster and have more instant and quicker success, but I don't think that we would be able to sustain it over time. And we really want to have a system and a lifestyle that we'll be able to sustain for years and years and years to come. Not a platform that might grow quickly, but then it burns us out in the meantime and destroys our family in the meantime.
Yeah, 2 things we didn't really like with social media was, one, I realized, wow, we're creating a lot of disposable content. We would work for 3 hours on something that would be deleted 24 hours later. And so it just wasn't a good exchange for our time. The other thing was it was just a big distraction into the rest of our life. So that said, when we got off social media, we started hearing from a lot of you who are also leaving your social media accounts, but they were saying, we still want to be a part of Now That We're a Family and know what you guys are doing, and we do find encouragement from you. And so a decision that we made is that we've stopped making content that is native to the Instagram app, meaning that Instagram is basically a place where we update you all in one place. If Instagram is still serving you and you enjoy being on that app, it's an easy place to see where we're sharing on YouTube, where we're sharing on the blog, what we're sharing on the podcast. But no longer is any content created just for Instagram. It can be found on the blog, on YouTube, or the podcast, because we wanted to help support you guys who decided that social media wasn't serving you as well. And we feel like that's been a great thing for us. So that said, if you see content on our Instagram, it's something that someone else has created for us and posted for us. Or if it's our words, they are words or faces that can be found somewhere else online.
That's right. And again, our goal with this is that people are then able to consume any content we put out in a more deliberate way. You can sit down, listen to a podcast that we record, or watch a YouTube video that we make, rather than almost being like a victim to whatever the next slide is going to be, and because I know I've felt that way before.
It became that way a lot more for me when Reels happened on the app. That's when I found I was having a harder time staying focused on the app and just seeing what I wanted to see. If we did not have a business, it is easy for me to say we would not have a social media account at all, because it's not something that we personally use. That said, before we switched to not getting on our social media and we kind of made this switch to someone else managing it for us, we already didn't use social media to stay in touch with friends. We already didn't use it for pleasure because it was work, just distracted work. And our main sources of inspiration had switched from Instagram, where there's like lots of different pieces of inspiration and information all the time from a bunch of different angles, to specifically searching things from my favorite YouTubers, our favorite blogs, our favorite podcasts. We still enjoy and find inspiration from people online, but it is a lot more direct and a lot less sporadic.
A lot of people ask how we stay up to date on news and current events. And we actually like that, once again, I've said this so many times, we like how intentional we have to be in order to go look something up. I have found myself becoming more and more, I guess, convicted about knowing a certain level about what's going on in the world. As leader of my home and as the protector of my family, I want to know what's going on locally. You know, if there's a riot that I should be aware of before we just head to a park in town. In fact, that actually happened this last summer, where there was a riot that actually made national news. The FBI came and arrested people. It got pretty crazy, and it was at a park that we frequent on a regular basis. But because I kind of had this system of checking the news briefly, the local news briefly, every morning, I was able to tell Katie, like, hey, like, I don't know if you had any plans of going to this park, but stay away from that park. So again, I'm saying this to say, yes, we still inform ourselves on local news and on a certain level, national and world news, but we do it in a very intentional way where we're looking up very specific websites and very specific things.
Yeah, Elisha does. I don't inform myself on news at all. I feel like all the big news, someone tells you in person. Like, you hear about it at church, you hear about it, you hear about it all over the place. So I don't feel the need to look up any news for myself. And then Elisha stays informed. So that's great. The first 6 months, I will say this, we ran across, Elisha's already touched on them, it was an inconvenience to not have a smartphone. There were so many times we sat down and we're like, we need a smartphone, like this afternoon. Like, can you make time in your schedule to go get one? And the biggest reason for that was that all of our systems for our whole life were based on having a smartphone. That was how we lived our life. And so when you take all that away, we didn't really know, we didn't have any new systems. But since this year of developing new systems, we haven't done that for months, where we've been in a situation where we looked at each other and we're like, if we had a smartphone, we would not be in this predicament. And I would say one of the biggest differences is smartphones are really, really great for like last minute or in the moment entertainment, decisions, crises, all those things, right? You can like pivot really quickly. You can't pivot super quickly and easily with a dumb phone. But what you can do is be more prepared. And when you're more prepared, we found that actually has eliminated so much stress in our lives than trying to do everything on the fly. So ultimately, I would say our lives have become a lot more efficient, a lot more productive, a lot more peaceful. But it took some time for us to cultivate a life that was not dependent on a mobile device that was always with us.
Again, we would love to know any additional questions you might have about becoming smartphone free. And just so you know, the technology that we're working with, we've got 2 computers. I've got a laptop and Katie's got a laptop. We don't have any tablets. We don't have any iPads. We really are just a 2-computer family. And of course, we've got those cameras that we talked about, and we've got our flip phones.
A lot of cameras.
Yeah.
And we do have really fast internet.
Oh, yeah.
And I will say this, I've had women contact me and be like, I would love to get rid of my smartphone, but I live off grid and we can't get internet to our house, and I have the iPhone. I'm like, that's a totally different decision. You're choosing to live without a smartphone, and you're also choosing to live without internet. And that's a different conversation.
Yes.
So I don't know what we would do in that situation. But for us, this works really well. And I just feel like I'm a lot more present, or a lot more peaceful, and all the little kinks and bumps along the way, I feel like we've worked most of them out.
Yeah, it's been a really good 6 months, and we're optimistic about the future. And if we ever decide to go internet free, then we'll definitely let you know. That's the next step. That's the big leagues there. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed already, please do that as well, so you can see every video that we come out with every single week.
We'll see you guys next Thursday.
Bye-bye.